Now, there's a good deal, that's another channel, the body. We've had dreams, visions, nature, psychopathology, the body. Another channel is through the use of entheogens, and this is controversial. Not sure if we should stop the tape at this point, but entheogens are psychedelic drugs. Okay, you can see. Well, this is controversial. You can see that the etymology of this word means the birth of the divine within. But I'm talking about compounds like psilocybin, ayahuasca, peyote, this kind of thing. Now, there's a tremendous controversy about this. Do entheogens just give you a kind of disordered brain by screwing up your brain chemistry, or do they give you an authentic spiritual experience? This debate started, I think, in the 60s with a guy called Walter Pahnke at Harvard, I think, in what was called the Good Friday experiment. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but he took a group of theology students and divided them into two groups in good positivist scientific style. He gave half of them psilocybin, which is the active extract of the psychedelic mushroom, in a capsule, and the other half he gave niacin, vitamin B3, because niacin causes flushing and tingling of the face, so they felt like they got something. So that was the control group. And the psilocybin group got the real thing. And then he sent them off to the chapel. And it turned out, I think, 9 out of 10 of the, I forget the precise details, but some very large percentage of the psilocybin group had a profound spiritual experience during the Good Friday chapel service, and a small number of the others did. A statistically significant difference. And there was a follow-up several years later, and apparently the experience had persisted. I don't remember the date of the experience, of this experiment. I think it was in the 60s. But the point is that it was ignored, unfortunately. I think the churches really missed an opportunity there, actually. Because there was then a lot of literature saying this has nothing to do with spirituality. The kind of experience you get is just the result of disordered brain chemistry. And then there were other people who said, no, these compounds can produce profound spiritual experience. Houston Smith, who's a very important contemporary theologian and writer on the history of religion, uses this term in his book on this. I can't remember the title of the book. I think it's something about the cleansing the doors of perception, or that phrase from Blake.
Aldous Huxley is cleansing the doors.
You're
talking varieties of religious experience.
No, that's William James. No, Houston Smith wrote a book, but I can't remember the title, but the point is that he approves of this idea, and he uses the term entheogens. Anyway, so that's the debate. So my own feeling, as you may have guessed, is that they do produce authentic spiritual experiences, and I'd like to tell you one. This is a woman who'd taken psilocybin. She says, suddenly I became aware of a presence that was powerful and nurturing. It reassured me that I could surrender to the experience. I separated from my body and suddenly felt myself floating light and free. I seemed to exist as pure consciousness within brilliant light, and I felt blissful peace and joy. I became aware of two beings composed of light. We discussed my path in life, significant events, their relevance to my life's purpose. The deep wisdom and compassion of these beings helped me understand and accept several painful life events. Does this sound like a disordered brain? It doesn't to me. And I felt forgiveness towards people who had hurt me. I felt emotional healing. They led me to a golden platform that ascended 7 levels like a stepped pyramid. At the top was a blaze of brilliant diamond light, radiantly clear, sparkling with flashes of color. I sensed this was a divine presence. The light coalesced into the form of a goddess with an Asian face. No words were exchanged, just unspeakable reverence and devotion on my part, and unfathomable love on hers. I knew her to be Kuan Yin. She smiled at me, then she turned her gaze at what appeared to be the earth far below, surrounded by the darkness of space. I looked at the planet. I saw countless drops of light, which I knew represented every living being on the earth. My heart opened. I experienced incomparable love for all life and the deepest compassion I've ever known. I felt this for people including rapists and murderers, whom I loved with the sadness of one who sees their suffering. I realized they were lost souls who had forgotten their true nature. I felt a deep desire to help guide each one towards their birthright. Looking at Kuan Yin, I realized that my experience was only a reflection of her divine nature, shared with me at this moment. Now, how can that be the result of a disordered brain? I mean, it's far too coherent. Yes?
For the record, Lionel, the title of the book is Cleansing the Doors of Perfection.
Cleansing the Doors of Perfection.
The
Thank you.
religious significance of entheogenic plants and chemicals.
Thank you. I knew it had Doors of Perception in the title, but I couldn't remember the title. It's well worth it. It discusses this whole problem. Because there is a whole, a good deal of literature from theologians that will deny that this has any kind of value, but it obviously does. This, like all Numinous experience, this was directly relevant to this woman's developmental history. She'd been raised in a very abusive household, was often ridiculed, beaten, and shamed by her mother. And Kuan Yin, of course, archetypally represents this loving, compassionate, divine mother, exactly of the kind that she didn't have as a child. This, again, is another example of healing contact with the Numinous. So this vision was very, very helpful. And again, if you want to reduce it, you can dismiss this as just some kind of fantasy released by the drug. Or if you're a follower of Otto and James and that line of thinking, you can see this as an authentic, direct revelation, in this case produced by this entheogen. Okay? For me, the level of spirituality in this experience is so high that and it's so coherent that I can't see it as the result of a disordered brain.